What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I am Rockin Robbie Billups, and welcome to the Rex and the Robbie Show. And today we're talking about a subject that I'm very, very passionate about, and that is physical media. We're going to be talking about some things that have happened over the last few months, and we're going to project what we think is actually going to happen in physical media. And of course, we're talking about movies, but we're also talking about video games and even things like comic books if you want to add that in. But of course, it can't be the Rex and the Robbie Show without the rambunctious one himself. It is Rex. What is up, my man?
What's up, bud? Oh,
It's good to see you. Hope you had a good holiday.
Yeah, I that's supposed to say Happy Friday, and I forgot to delete the July. It used to say Happy July 4th, so that's on me. But anyway,
Well,
it was
happy
okay.
July Friday to you, Rex.
Well, I hate it when July 4th falls in the middle of the week, like it did this year. It kind of messes things up, and you can't celebrate as hard as you would maybe on a Thursday as you would on a Friday or a Monday, so to speak, I guess. Whatever the case may be. But it is what it is. So how about you? How was your weekend?
Oh, it was great, man. I had a really good 4th. I just hung out with my girlfriend and some friends, playing some games, just having a good, solid, fun, clean time. It was interesting. It's probably one of the most sober 4th of Julys I've ever had.
So what happens when it falls on a Thursday, man?
Yeah, no kidding. But no, it was super fun, super good. So we're here to talk about physical media. Now, Rex, this is something that we have discussed, here and there on this show, but I wanted to dedicate the whole episode to it because you're looking at what's going on, and you out there in the chat, we see you, Delight, we see you, Two Gun, we see you, Patrick. I see that you three are as passionate about physical media as me. I am an avid collector of movies and all kinds of physical media, like books and things like that, right? I even collect VHS, Rex, right? And it's a sad idea, but let's go back and look at some of the stuff that's been happening. At one point, Disney says, we're not making Blu-rays anymore for Australia, okay? Right? That happened a few months ago. Then Walmart, Best Buy, Target, they start saying that they're going to start minimizing the space that they give to physical media and eventually probably phase it out. Just a few weeks ago, Sony said that they are going to be phasing out production of Blu-ray discs. So there's that. And then Redbox, which has been one of the last vestiges of the rental system, basically, right? There's some small ones here and there, some mom and pop places. In fact, a buddy of mine runs one locally here where he does rentals, and he's doing really, really well, right? But, Redbox, they're in danger, and their parent company, Chicken Soup for the Soul, which I didn't know that Chicken Soup for the Soul owned Redbox, but so they have declared bankruptcy, and they've been shutting down these Redbox things. They can't buy new discs to replenish those Redboxes, and a lot of people have been talking for years that physical media is dying, right? Now, I'm not a video game guy, but I also hear this from friends of mine that play video games where they say most video games don't even come with a disc anymore. And some of the next systems we get may not even have a disc drive because you buy something, you download it, whatever, right? Now it's about streaming. It's about the digital formats, right? Owning it in the cloud or something. But we've also talked about on this show with it was like a PlayStation Network thing, right? Where they got rid of a bunch of stuff that people may have purchased, but they were like, sorry, read the fine print. You don't technically own it if we don't have it available on our servers or something like that, right? So it does seem, I'm going to tell you this, physical media, I don't think will ever officially fully die, kind of like how they still make vinyl records today, Rex. But people don't go out in droves when new records release. You know what I'm saying? Not the mass populace. I do think we are seeing a very vast decline of physical media, and I think it's going to be pretty much phased out and it's going to become a very niche, boutique kind of a thing. And I think it's sad because for some reasons, but what's your take on all of this stuff? What's happened and where it's going?
You have to clearly define what you mean by die. So I agree with everything you just said there, because at the end of the day, it's dying. Is it going to be physically gone forever? I doubt that. Okay. It takes a long time before that really takes hold. Maybe 2 generations from now, it will cease to exist on any level other than a collector level, right? Just think, how long did it really take payphones to die once cell phone usage became common? It took a long time. You still saw payphones at airports on the random street corner, but eventually it died. Okay, um, so you really got to redefine that. But is it diminishing? Yes. There's no way to avoid that. Okay, as you say, making vinyl records still appeals to a very small niche audience. Okay, for whatever reason, and they all have their reasons. They enjoy the physical media. They like hearing scratches on their music, whatever you want to call it. Um, that's always going to exist to a certain extent, I believe. All right. The real transition is going to be, I think it's going to be interesting. When that happens is when those of us that are alive, when vinyl records was a thing, when going to Sam Goody or later on Tower Records was a thing, when you had these huge stereo systems, with your turntable and your receiver and all this stuff, and speakers that were taller than a small child. When that generation finally passes and becomes nothing more than a memory, where's it go from there? I don't know. Okay, does it die completely? But yeah, it's happening. It's because the vast majority of us, just like I'll give another example: handwritten checks. Okay, so about a year ago, maybe no more than a year, 2 years ago, I found myself in a awkward situation. Right, so I stopped ordering paper checks. Why? Because I never wrote them. And the one book that I had, it lasted for like years. Okay. Then I finally got to my last check and it went to my landscaper because he didn't take any other form. So this last couple of years before he moved to now, he takes, not Venmo, but what's that other digital pay system? I forget. But anyway,
Cash App or something like that.
Yeah, Zeal or Zelle or whatever. So he just started taking that. But prior to that, what I ended up doing is I considered, rather than order another stack of checks, what am I doing that for? So I go to my bank who, if I am a member of the bank, will cut me a bank check for free. I just went and got that. Okay. It took a visit to the bank, but whatever. Okay. So I got the check, mailed it to him, whatever. So that's something that's died as well. And I remember checks were a big thing. When I was young, I had to be 17 or whatever. I got my first checkbook with my name on it, my home address. It was the thing. It was you paid a lot of things with it. You go to the store, you go to a department store, and you say, I'd like to write a physical check. You produce a license, sometimes a license and a credit card, whatever. Something to identify you are who you are. You wrote them a check and they took it. Those days are gone, right? I can pay for some stuff on my phone. It's just the inevitable march of technology. It makes it easier. So CDs, DVDs, VCRs, they've gone by the wayside. Okay, physical books. I was a huge physical. I still have a huge collection of books. What am I going to do with that? I have no idea. Because most of them are paperback and they've been worn. So they have no value. It's not like a first edition or something. They have no real value. But I keep them. Okay. They've come in handy. Like, you experience a power outage that lasts several days, which is becoming more and more frequent. I found myself by candlelight reading one of those physical books. That was nice. But would I buy another one? Why? Why would I do that? Okay. I can go to Kindle, rent whatever I want. I can shop there. Now, don't get me wrong. I miss the physical experience of going to a bookstore. Barnes and Noble, at a point, they had a great coffee shop, and it was an experience. I remember it from my youth. And when my daughter was still real little, I was going through a divorce. We'd go there on an afternoon for her to do her homework, get a snack, get her hot chocolate, whatever. But the point of fact is, those days are gone. I haven't stepped my foot into a bookstore in I don't know how long. There's no reason to. There's so many other things in life that I have to accomplish. The Kindle thing was a matter of convenience. At that time, I was traveling a lot. In my younger days, in the 80s, early 90s, I would travel to Asia. So I would have to prepare and buy all these paperbacks, right? So a 2-week trip to Asia, I could go through 10 books. It was not unheard of. So You have to pack all that, and believe it or not, even a paperback has weight. It was inconvenient. Then came the later years, and what ended up happening is I traveled with my daughter, and I'd be on Kindle at the airport downloading books that I want to read on the flight. It was easier. I didn't have to carry all these books. It was one less thing to pack. So the convenience of that, right now, going home, sitting, I don't have to get up and switch DVDs or whatever. I just click and I find something I want to watch. The convenience, I have no attachment to the physical media, so the convenience of that makes it so much easier. So barring the collectors, group, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's just going to go that way because it's easier for the normal people that don't have an attachment to the physical media. So I'm getting what I want with less work. So what can you do?
Yeah, I would even say like, even in the heyday of it, in the 90s and the 2000s, like, I'm amassing a big, movie collection, and most of my friends and most of the people that I'd go to their house, they might have like a shelf of movies. And even back in the 90s, I remember people would have like probably like 8 VHSs, underneath their TV and their entertainment system. It's not like, I don't think it's necessarily ever been popular for everybody to just have a massive collection of physical media, right? Now, there are times when you're a kid, especially with music, like I remember having so many CDs. Man, my bedroom was filled with books and comics and CDs and movies. In fact, my apartment is still the same way, just without the CDs, right? Because that's something that I have gone solely digital. Like, I don't buy music anymore. Like, I haven't bought a CD, I haven't bought an album in forever, and I listen to most of my music on YouTube and Spotify, right? And a lot of the times what's crazy is that back in the day, those big stereo systems you were talking about, right? I remember those, man, like giant, so many things like, oh, it's got 2 tape decks and a microphone input. We can make a radio show. That's when I first started doing like podcast type stuff back in those days before podcasting was even a term, right? And people used to spend so much money on like the right sound equipment, and they would get the vinyl because apparently it's cleaner and this, and then digital stuff started coming out, remastering. But now it's like we have access to all this music, but we're listening to it on devices that are really weak compared to like some of that stuff. So it's like we have more access to it, but then the quality of it is less, right? Like streaming music on your phone is not the same experience as having a great system and some, awesome headphone, things like that. But there's still audio files, right? Just like there's cinephiles, like people like me that love to have a giant movie collection. And there's a lot of reasons why I think it's important to keep my movie collection. And even though, yeah, they're not going to last forever, they will eventually deteriorate and die and everything like that. But for now, if I want to go watch a movie that I own, I can go watch that movie. And here's my biggest thing. My number one reason why I'm a physical media fan. What happens when they go, this movie's not cool enough anymore, this movie is too bad, or this movie is problematic in some way or some form or fashion, or this movie has this person in it who now has been accused of this or now has been found out of doing this, so now we're not, and then it's just gone off of all these digital platforms. Then that's deleting art. That's deleting art. And like, I know that this is weird and there are way bigger problems in this world, right, Rex, than deleting a movie off of a server or something like that. But I think that's pretty messed up because I like certain movies that could be considered transgressive and subversive, right? Especially some of the horror films that I watch. And sometimes you don't have access to these movies. Like I keep talking about this movie, George A. Romero's Martin. Great movie. Nobody can find it, right? Like I got like a Blu-ray from Europe that I have so I can play it on my region-free player. But everybody I talk to, they're like, oh, cool, that sounds awesome. Where's it at? I'm like, well, you're not going to find it to stream, right? Near Dark, when we did Near Dark, which is just a run-of-the-mill vampire movie that I think is really good, just not available to purchase on disc or on streaming for a long time. Dawn of the Dead. Good luck finding that one to stream, the original Dawn of the Dead. Yeah, go find it. See where it is. And then here's a great example. These right here. These are DVDs of the original Star Wars trilogy. These are the widescreen limited edition. What's important about this is the only digital disc format that you can get the original unaltered cuts of the movie, the non-special editions. If you don't own these or some VHSs, you're stuck with special edition. And I know a lot of people got problems with that, but like they keep changing it. What, like, that's another thing then. So like people can go in and change their movie and all of a sudden it's a different, like, just, and I know that there's, to some people this doesn't matter, but I know the Star Wars thing matters to people because I know people really like that original, those original theatrical cuts of Star Wars where Han shoots first and it doesn't have all the wonky CG cutesy type stuff, right? This is the only way because Disney ain't ever going to put them out streaming. So if you're a Star Wars fan, you're just stuck with ever McClunky new edit that they've done. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. What do you think about that aspect of it, Rex?
I think that you're talking about a very small segment of the population, and you're right in the sense that certain things are going to be lost because of this. But I think you're looking at the small picture. Okay, there's a much bigger point here. Okay, and I think Figure Drawing said it earlier. You know, people are starting to not use cash. Okay, all right. So I think it was this book, a sci-fi book called Lucifer's Hammer. Talks about a big meteor hitting the earth, all that good stuff, right? I think it was by Larry Niven and Jerry Purnell, two really great writers, and it was written sometime in the 70s, I want to say. And here's something to consider. What you're talking about is, you know, granted, to people who love physical media, what you point out is a great point. Something is lost, right? But that's really inevitable, right? So I think we're kind of ignoring the bigger problem. Okay. So why is physical media, dying? Because of everything and the quick technological changes and everything being able to be supported in a digital realm. Okay. So books, DVDs or movies, money, everything, right? So let's look at the bigger picture. What happens if all of a sudden, okay, think about this. All right. Now, this is what you say, I understand, but do I really care? To be honest with you, I'm not in love with physical media. So, no, not really. But here's a bigger problem. With everything switching over to digital, think about the infrastructure that goes to support that. Okay. Now, with the cloud. So, where is it exactly? Is it on a server somewhere? Now, what does that server use? Power, electricity, right? There's some physical element that's still running it. So now all my money is trapped there. Okay. Everything I use, a phone, everything is trapped there. Okay. I buy things there. They're shipped to me. I listen to my music there. I watch movies there. Everything that I know, okay, is there. What happens if a big ass meteor hits the earth and wipes out the infrastructure? Now what? So the reason I bring up Lucifer's Hammer is, so, people, society collapses, there's cannibalism, whatever, right? So these like those doomsters, small enclaves are built. Okay. So all of a sudden things like agriculture, if you have experience, that become important. Who becomes the most valuable person in the world? The person that stored the books on how to do things, whatever it may be, how to build a dam, okay, how to grow. Now those physical books now become important because they require very little infrastructure to hold together. You just got to preserve it, make sure it doesn't get destroyed. Okay, and from that you learn all these things. So what does happen to the earth, to people, to society as a whole, as we become more and more dependent on technology for everything? Because think about it. That's why AI is a threat, because it incorporates itself into that same structure with which we depend on everything. It's not Skynet necessarily building stuff. It's controlling the money that we make, the services that we buy, the manufacture that we perform, everything is hitched on that. So really, what you're talking about are signs of our dependency shifting more and more to this kind of structure and the dangers that it entails. Okay. And at the same time, you've got climate change going on, which is wreaking havoc. Okay. Where we're talking about one of the most dangerous things is it's I'm not getting in politics, but some of the nonsense we talk about as the election approaches. I'm really not worried about illegal immigration, to be quite honest with you. Okay. It's not something that I see other than on the news. It's not something that affects my day-to-day life. Okay. That's not something I'm really worried about. The fact that things I am worried about, the fact that because our utilities things are not well protected, it is very feasible that somebody could engage in a cyber attack and shut down the power to half the country. Then what?
Yeah, dude, I just watched Live Free or Die Hard. That's the whole plot of that movie.
Well, worse than that, now most of the country is under a heat wave, triple digits. You shut down the power, and what happens? People die. That's real. So these are the things I think that are a more immediate concern to society, to the human race, than everything else that they distract us with. Okay, that to me is a real danger. Are they protected? We saw the weaknesses in the Texas power grid when everything went down in the winter, when everything was connected, and the fact that they did not jump along with all the rest of the states and how they structure their energy grid. Okay, so they can buy and share energy with other states. They're alone, they're independent. So when it failed dramatically. Prices shot way the heck up. They didn't have enough power to keep homes heated. People died. These are the real things. And I think that this topic touches on that. Really, it really does. Forget about watching movies at that point, right? But all of it's connected. So what is the danger in that? We don't talk about it enough as a country.
Yeah, I like that the way that you've related the physical media thing into like how our dependability on this cloud or this wherever this information is. And yeah, it's our money, it's our information, it's all that kind of stuff. If that got wiped out, what happens? You know what I'm saying? Like what happens? Like everybody it starts back over from like ground zero, is it like a reboot? Are we back into Stone Age?
Actually related to your movie collection, right? So you're in the enclave, okay? Big meteor hits the planet. So you're trying to rebuild. Okay, everybody needs entertainment, whatever it may be. Okay, so you could probably find somebody who knows something about power and electricity. You could probably find a battery cell somewhere. You could probably get somebody to get on a bike and generate the power. And somebody could jury rig a DVD or VCR, okay, so that they could power it. Find some way to project it on a screen, because all you need is a monitor, okay, plus the VCR and the cables connecting it, okay, and you could show the movie in your new, Humanity Survives enclave, right?
Yeah.
But currently, with the way that we're consuming it, that can't happen. Even if you have that guy, there has to be a server somewhere, there has to be a tower somewhere. All this stuff requires you have the internet, so the internet has to work. So how does that happen? Okay, even if you can get the power working, you can't get the signal. Okay, so that's somewhere far, far away from you. You see my point that I'm trying to make?
Yeah.
We've become so dependent on technology that one or two things can wipe it out. And that's a scary concept. It really is.
Yeah, we had a tornado outbreak in this state like in 2011, a pretty gnarly one, right? And my town lost power for like a week and a day. So there's like 8 days no power. It shut down. I mean, the city was just shut down. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody could do anything. And it wound up being an interesting experience because like we met neighbors that we never met before. Everybody's outside grilling, cooking because you have to cook all your food up, right? Because you ain't got no power. Never realized how much I loved hot showers at that time, when you had to take a cold one every single day. But like, it just takes, and that was just, And that was something that we thought, okay, we'll power up, be back in a couple hours, and then it wasn't, and then it just, and what happens? And I don't, it's a doomsday scenario, but what happens if that happens for real? Like, and it just keeps going, right?
Yeah.
Then I think movies would be the least important thing we're worried about. But you're right, as we start rebuilding communities and stuff, that's important to like share art and stories with each other and like supply some form of escape and some form of comfort, right? And I'm not trying to oversell the importance of movies and physical media, right? But I'll tell you what, dude, this is the only way to watch the original Star Wars right there. And I know a lot of people love that. And so streaming it back then a little bit, accessibility is an issue with me about the loss of physical media too, because there are a lot of movies that are on VHS. When they made the switch to DVD, not all of those movies made the switch over. There's some movies that are still only ever available on VHS, right? Those movies are gone in the switch over. Same thing happened with DVD into Blu-ray. Same thing's happening with Blu-ray into HD, like, or Ultra HD, right? So every time we have a format jump, we do lose media. We do lose art, right?
Yes,
And
I agree.
so there's that. And then with the streamers, or like Amazon or whatever whatever place you purchase these digital movies or rent them from, right? And that's something I like. Like, I like being able to go on to Amazon and rent a movie for $4, and just watch it because I don't necessarily want to own it, but I want to watch it. I like that. That's cool. But like, there's been a couple of times where I go on there, for instance, Split, right? We had to do this show one time where like Glass was about to come out. We were going to rewatch Unbreakable and Split and all this stuff, right? And so I'm like, well, I don't have Split, so let me go on Amazon. It wasn't available to rent anywhere. I had to pay $10 for it. So I own Split somewhere on an Amazon server, I guess, until I guess they decide that I don't or something like that. But that's not even the big deal. But the accessibility, like, so we do the movie night, right? And my buddy Brooks, he, like, in fact, everybody, almost most of the people that are on there, they're not really collecting physical media anymore. So all the time I get these messages from people going, hey, this movie that you're covering this week, where do I find it to watch? It's not on any streaming service. It's not on any platform to rent. They're like, well, how are you watching? I'm like, well, I own it. So that's how I'm watching it, because I have the Blu-ray. And that is something that happens all the time, where there's no access to these films. And so, like, and I don't know, to me, that's sad. That's sad. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's wrong or immoral or anything like that, but I think it's sad. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's going to happen no matter what. Okay, in history, because they burned down the library, whatever the case may be. Okay, so again, I hate to do this, but refer to Foundation by Isaac Asimov, and he talks about it in that story, in that you had this great galactic empire and the fall and the burning of the information and all that stuff, and how the Foundation was created to preserve that information, to shorten the time that society, the empire, would be in chaos, right? From 10,000 years, something like that, to 1,000 years. But it's a very relevant point, okay? In that at any point we're now at this juncture where something could cause it to all end, because we've become so dependent on the technology, the internet, if you will, the capacity, to make smarter and smarter, faster and faster computers. Okay, why microchips have become such a commodity. It's really funny, because you read the news, and certainly there's a lot of it these days. Okay, but you look at the news and you see how people underplay what's happening. Okay, in the media especially, and they focus on things that's going to get clicks, clickbait if you want. But one of the biggest things is people don't even realize, and it's on my radar because my parents live there. Okay, my daughter's grandparents, but I don't think that most of the world, certainly not in this country, understand the importance of China invading Taiwan. Okay, To them, it's some faraway place in the Pacific that you read about, and because of Chinese government, it makes the radar because China's the big bad guy. Okay, but really, that minute, more than, and nothing to diminish what's happening in Ukraine, nothing to diminish what happened in the Middle East or what's happening there now. Taiwan, I believe, okay, controls at least 75% of manufacture of microchips, which go into everything that we use, your TV, your phone, your computer. China takes control of Taiwan, and they own microchip manufacturing. What does that mean for the rest of the world? Why do we never talk about it? Why don't we hear about that? Because that is a significant shift. I think maybe there are higher ups in DOD and stuff, and they do talk about that. Okay, but as a population, we don't talk about that. We talk about other goofy stuff that really has, I believe in an overpopulated world, if a woman decides not to proceed with her pregnancy, that is her choice, and she has the right to make that choice. Okay. Now, people may disagree with me, and that's fine. But the point of fact that is forefront on everybody's mind in the media, to me, strikes me as weird. Because no matter what we decide, isn't going to suddenly change the world in that effect. China invading Taiwan will change how we do everything. Okay. The fact that people don't recognize that is on them. Okay. So to me, it's I figure drawing. I think we learned, okay, the importance of the chain of key deliveries, as he puts it, supplies during the pandemic when things started to shut down. I can't get it because they need this part to make it, and they can't get that part, so they're not making it. So I can't get this, the end product. It just makes me feel like we are very much in a precarious position. There has to be constant balance of everything. Otherwise, everything is going to go south real fast, real quick.
Yeah.
And that's something that people need to recognize. The petty hatreds that exist across the planet, it just, guys, come on, man. What's the point? What is the point?
Yeah. Here, it's like here, especially during election times, they just try to get people wrapped up in like emotional arguments, right? They pick these topics and these issues that are easy to emotionally manipulate people with, right?
Yes.
Like
Correct.
for instance, with the abortion thing, it's easy to get people riled up on either side of that issue, right?
Yes.
Marriage equality, immigration. These are issues that it's very easy to get people in this country riled up over and emotionally invested in. And I would even say that most American voters are like 1 to 2 issue voters, right? They vote based on somebody's stance on 1 or 2 issues, right? I don't think it's just kind of part of the way it goes. Like I'm a big anti-war person. So I will always want to try to vote for a person who I think won't get us in more war, which is nobody. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I'm disenfranchised. But no, it's real scary stuff. And I never even I never knew that about Taiwan owning most of the microchip processors and China. And yeah, man, that's actually pretty freaking scary, Rex.
It's there's so many things that are like that around the world that we don't pay attention to. And I agree with you. We become 1, 2 issue voters, and unfortunately, not the most important issues. Okay. All right. It's not to say that the issue or the question of abortion isn't important to people. It is. Okay. And for a lot of good reasons. And you can draw beyond that. But in the immediate future, is that the biggest problem? I don't think so. Okay, and I gotta look at it. I'm a middle-aged guy, and I can see social security from where I stand, right? Okay, I'm actually making, I need to work this long to max out, right? These are things I'm considering. Not saying that is at the forefront of my mind, but certainly, I don't plan to become pregnant. Okay, all right, all right. So this is not an issue that really relates to me, and I'm afraid that people are so distracted by things like this. Okay, whatever it may be, immigration, whatever. Okay, at the end of the day, we're not paying attention to what we really need to pay attention to, and that's a scary thought. That's a scary thought. When I read the news, and most of this is about, you got two old men who are attacking each other for being old men. Okay, which to me is comical. Okay, it really is. I mean, I can't imagine at my age trying to do what the job entails to be president of the free world. Okay, so do I believe we need somebody younger, somebody who has more energy? And I'll look at Barack Obama, who was a young man when he entered presidency. By the time he left, his hair went completely white. He served 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it stress? Maybe. Okay. So I would want a young man. If they, I'm not even really thinking about policies right now. I want somebody who I don't think is going to die. Okay. Because of the stress level. It's like I wouldn't want somebody, if I'm in a house that's burning down, I would not want the oldest fireman using a cane to come save me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I want the young guy. Okay. The guy who looks like he's been lifting weights. He looks like The Rock. I want him. I want him to come save me for obvious reasons. Okay.
All right. Let's pull this back into the physical media conversation real quick. Like, I was not expecting that conversation, Rex. Good job.
Sorry, Robbie. I went off, dude. I went off on tangent. Comcast left me alone today, so I figured this is my chance.
Yeah, no kidding. You actually did good. So that's really cool. Hey, look, it's Nick.
Wait, watch. It's going to go off now. Comcast, I'll be watching you, dude.
All right, so here's another thing about the physical media thing that I want to ask you about is I think that the lack of physical media and the lack of accessibility in the streaming platforms and stuff like that is leading to a resurgence of piracy. And somebody, I think it may have been figure drawing, it seems like these corporations are almost compelling people to pirate things. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. What do you think about that? What do you think about the role of piracy involved in the decline of physical media?
We were going to mention this later, but since Nick's there anyway, check out. And if I don't know if you have a link, I didn't email it to you, but the Darkwing Duck Kickstarter doing great. We appreciate everyone's support. So if you got a minute, check it out. Some great opportunities there. With Darkwing Duck, everything we've been doing with Disney has been awesome. So definitely check it out if you can, and maybe Robbie will find the link for the end of the show. Anyway, I'm sorry. So say that again. Physical media.
Yeah, and the way the decline of physical media and how that relates to a resurgence of piracy.
Well, what do you mean though? How is the piracy part resurgent?
Well, okay, so part of the issue that's tied up in it to me is why I think physical media is important is because there's the chance that we'll lose art, right? And so to combat this in a world where there's less discs being made. So for instance, there's this movie that came out 2022 called Barbarian. I love that movie. I love it so much. As far as I'm aware, there's not a physical release here in the States yet. I think there's one in Europe, but if I want to watch that movie, I got to be on whatever streaming service it's on until they decide to take it off. And since I can't go buy this disc, a lot of people think it's A-okay and cool for them to go and just torrent that or download it somewhere and then own it on their computer somewhere. Same type thing, but like with a lack of physical media and a lack of accessibility in our online streaming platforms, it's encouraging more people to go back to piracy, I think.
Well, I think that piracy has always existed, and there's nothing you can do about it. I think that for movies, control ended when it came out with VHS and VCRs and DVDs and so on and so forth. The studios lost control because back then, the only way you could watch a movie is at theater, right? Reel to reel, okay, 35 millimeter. Who's going to go out and buy a 35 millimeter projection, right? We need Super 8 to get it down. So in that sense, once that ended, piracy became a thing, right? And even then, when when your video camera came out, you had people sitting in movie theaters with your low quality pirating, basically filming the movie in the movie theater. There was no way to stop it. I think piracy on every level has always existed, even when we had those wooden sailing ships. Okay, it just changes form with society, with technology. They find new ways to steal stuff, and there's never going to be a way to 100% protect it, right? So,
Yeah.
to me, that's just piracy adapting to what's going on in this day and age, right? So, we'll throw up a roadblock, some security measure, and somebody will eventually find a way around that security measure, right? What can you do? So to me, that's just piracy,
Yeah. Just going to happen no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. So whether it's up or down is really dependent on whether or not somebody's figured out a good way to do it. Okay, and whether or not the people that own the property is quick enough to block them. So it's always a never-ending game, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we pirate, we block. We find a new way to pirate, we block. So it just becomes this never-ending game that the properties and the pirates play.
Yeah.
Eventually,
All right.
somebody will figure it out.
So you don't really, physical media is not your cup of tea. It's not your bag anymore, really, right? And you have a lot of access to streaming services and stuff like that. So, like, for instance, let's just say you get you're talking with somebody at work. They remind you of, I don't know, Back to the Future. I'm just picking a movie, right? I don't know if any of this is stuff that would be true, but you say, all right, Back to the Future. Man, I really want to watch Back to the Future tonight. You go home, you sign into Netflix. It's not there. Get to your Max. It's not there. You check all your streaming services. There's no Back to the Future. And for some reason, it's not available to rent anywhere. You're screwed. You don't get to watch Back to the Future. That's okay with you?
Kind of, yeah. I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
Because if I can't watch Back to the Future, I'll find something else to watch. There's just a plethora of stuff out there that I can choose from, right? So ultimately, yeah, I'll find something else to watch, right? It's just like, all right, so my nephew, he has my Netflix account password and stuff, right? I didn't realize he was still using it, but that's fine. It's no big deal. But when Netflix changed the way you access your stuff, right? There are times at night I'll go onto my Netflix and it tells me there's another user, and I know it's him. So what do? I watch something else. I don't watch Netflix at that point in time. Okay, it's not that big a deal. So in a sense, what you're talking about is not that big a deal for me too. I understand what you're saying about the loss of art, the lack of freedom, okay, to be able to watch what I want when I want. But by the same token, okay, most people are not avid collectors like you are. So if I went to my Blockbuster and they didn't carry it, what am I going to do? Or if it's all rented out, what am I going to do? I don't watch
we
it.
remember those days, right, dude? Like, man, it's rented out. Oh.
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's not here, right? So in a sense, I'm experiencing the same thing in a different way. So is it a real loss? I don't think so.
All right. If I want to watch Back to the Future, I just pop in my disc and watch it for now.
Yeah, but how many people own an extensive collection as you do?
Right? I know, not many people. Not many people anymore, for sure.
If I really want to watch it, I call up my friend Robbie and say, hey, can I borrow it? But you live in Alabama. So you'd have to put it in the mail. I'd have to watch it and then put it back in the mail to you. So I'm still not watching it tonight, right?
Yeah, and Back to the Future is probably a bad example because I'm sure it's available somewhere to rent or purchase.
No, I understand your meaning. It doesn't matter what the movie is, obviously, but I understand what the meaning you're trying to make.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
To me, that always kind of existed, even before, when the only place you could watch a movie was the movie theater. They're not running it. What are you going to do? You can't watch it. Simple.
I guess I'm spoiled and I want to watch whatever I want to watch whenever I want to watch it, however I want to watch it.
You're a victim of that technology, right? You see?
Yeah.
So that convenience has overcome, the inconvenience, if you will. So I see it like the phone booth, like paper checks, like all that stuff. it is going to die. Okay, completely, probably not for a long time. Just with vinyls. I mean, look at it this way. Vinyls lost their exclusivity, their protection when the cassette player came out. Now I'll make my own little mixtape with my big, gigantic sound system. Okay, and those speakers, they didn't have to be that big. Do you ever tear one open and look at the back of one? This big wood console and the speaker system, actual system inside is about this big. So all that was open space, man. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Phone booths. I remember when the big thing was phone cards. You have a phone card and you be at the payphone. You can make all kinds of calls, just type in all these numbers. That died. Then eventually phone booths, because phone booths as a whole were coming to a point where they were struggling. Because I need to make a call to Europe. I'm not standing there throwing God knows how many quarters into the machine, right? So it became a local convenience. So then eventually came the phone cards. Oh, you can make a call anywhere you want, okay, in the world. You just need a phone card and we'll charge you, okay? I remember being young, okay? I'll be honest with you. To me, it is unthinkable that I cannot reach out and contact my daughter whenever I want. And when she doesn't answer, I have the, even though she's in her 20s, I have this moment of panic, like, oh my God, is she all right? Now I imagine what it must have been like for my mom. I go out. There was no way to contact me. She didn't know exactly where I was. She didn't have the phone number to it, certainly. Okay. She tried to make me, I do it sometimes or not, where I make a collect call. And she'd pick up the phone and you record your voice, Rex, right? And you'd hear that. Do you accept the charges? And my mom would say no and hang up.
Yeah.
She knew I would say. She knew I was alive. We didn't talk, but that wasn't what was relevant. She didn't want to accept the charges because who the hell wants to pay the phone bill to that? Yeah. Okay. Or get picked up. Okay. You make a collect call. Parents would refuse charges and they know, okay, it's time to pick them up. So it's just, things have changed, man. And it does seem like a million years. Okay, phone booths. Okay,
yeah. I remember when that seems like forever ago, dude. I remember all the commercials, like 1-800-collect, 1-800-call ATT, and all that stuff. And yeah, the phone cards, man. Oh my goodness.
Okay, I mean, rows of them at an airport. It was unheard of. Now I challenge you to find one in an airport. You can't. Nobody needs them.
Yeah.
So it's just the inevitable march of time, I guess. And I have to say, it is amazing how much technology has changed since Nick Barucci. Collectible phone cards were a thing. Yep. I worked for a company that produced them. Okay. And we never thought any of this stuff would go anywhere. Yet it all did. Okay. Another example. Okay, of technology, overlapping technology. For a few years, a handful of years, they had the digital audio tape, the DAT. It was a smaller cassette tape with kind of a high definition sound. That didn't even survive because CDs took over. Cheaper, less, a cheaper version of it was relatively the same quality. Okay. And before DAT could even, why the hell would I need it? All of a sudden we didn't need it. You say? So it's just, I have to admit, since the moon landing, if you look at it realistically, technology has come such a long way, such a short period. Laser discs, that's another good one. Okay, that was big in Asia for people that wanted the highest quality and never took off because it only ever appealed, I feel like, to what we call now the vinyl collector segment. Some people that had to have the highest quality, sharpest definition out there. But it costs so much more. So for normal people like us or like me, I'll just get DVD. I don't need that. It won't make that much difference to me, the quality. Yeah. So, and it's much cheaper and the machine's much cheaper.
There's a big piece of me that has been wanting to get into Laserdisc collecting, like get a player, get like some laser discs just because they're so cool, like big album wise, right? So where I think it's going, 62 Lefty Blue said this. I said this at the beginning, and you said this too. I think where we're going is it's very going to be this niche boutique type market. Yeah, Disney, Sony, Paramount. These people, they're probably not going to be making their own Blu-ray disc anymore. They're going to put a movie out, maybe drop it in the theater, 2 days later, drop it on some streaming service or some platform where you can rent it or something like that, and then just be done with it and see what happens, right? Also, the lack of physical media has definitely changed the revenue like system for movie companies, right? Like you used to be able to release a movie in theater, you get a wave, and then some movies didn't do well in the theater, but did really well in rental or in purchase, and it gave that movie a second life. That's something that's kind of gone now too, right? So all this stuff is shifting and changing, and it's already been happening for a few years, I think, with movies and the physical media. You got Shout Factory, Scream Factory, you got Arrow Video, you've got all these boutique kind of places that will just license out somebody's movie and produce their own disc with some great special features and make just the right amount to satisfy the small demand today. And then what happens over time is that some of those movies wind up getting really high in price on the aftermarket because they're a little bit more rare. And it's basically, us movie collectors, it is like vinyl collectors now, right? And they're putting out these special packages, special colored discs with extra features and a cool book or this and like that's what they're doing to keep this small niche market alive. And I think that's where we're going. I don't think it's going to fully die out anytime in the next 10 years, but it's definitely shrinking and it will continue to shrink, I believe. What about you? Where are we going? Final thoughts on it?
I don't know where we're going, but let me give you an example that just happened to me recently, right? So I had the week off, and my daughter and I went to Florida for the big tournament. Then we spent one day in Magic Kingdom, and it was a great day. And because of everything that's happened this year to me, about middle of the day, it started like Florida does, torrential, thunderstorm, and I was getting tired midday, right? So we went to the Carousel of Progress, all right, which Walt Disney debuted at the 1965 World's Fair, I believe. And I always loved it, a catchy tune, and it's always great. It's a little bit dated now because of just how far technology has come. But it was probably a perfect example, right? So you have the 4 periods of time, right? And he talks about the advancements in technology, and you get the last one. That one they've had to continually update. And now, because it's supposed to represent present day. So, I take that last one with great interest. I watch it with great interest because they have had to update it so much. And once again, it's obsolete. Okay. It's supposed to talk about what the future will hold. But go in there, and the theme is somewhat the same. The jokes are somewhat the same. The dad overcooks the New Year's Day turkey or whatever, but the video game the kid's playing is dated, looks old. And then he talks to the oven and sets a degree, and then they talk about something else, and he says the word 500, which then causes the oven to automatically raise the temperature to 500, and he burns the food. He talks to the oven. Isn't that Alexa? We can talk to everything in your house now, right? The video game looked like Defenders, Space Defenders, okay? So it just shows you that as much as they tried to update it, technology just keeps moving faster. And to me, I thought it was funny. My daughter and I also got to sit there, go around twice. Let us do that because of the rain. And I was tired, and I actually took a nap, which is usually where I take a nap when we go to Disney and I get tired. Nice, cool, comfortable seats, air conditioning. It's nice, and a catchy tune. But to me, that's what's happening. Is for some reason I feel like technology is rapidly outpacing what it's done in the past. For how long did we not have electricity? For how long was the human species just fire, hunting, gathering? Okay, and once technology hit, it seemed to increase exponentially the rate of improvement. You look at the difference between the space race back in the 60s to today and what has changed. And it's amazing to me what has changed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. the concept of cell phone like this, like what we use it for today, never even imagined it. So what's in line for us for the next 50? I don't know, man. I really
Yeah.
don't.
No kidding. What a great conversation that went all over the place, Rex.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, tangent.
But that's what we do here on the Rex and Robbie Show. Thank you all so much for checking us out. And if you're watching the rewind, let us know what you think. And do check out the Darkwing Duck Kickstarter. It is about to wrap up, and it is awesome and definitely worth your time. Rex, what you got coming up?
All right. So tonight we have the original art show with Nick's taking the night off, but we have our buddy Spencer Beck, 7 p.m. Eastern on EXP. And let me look real quick, see what else is scheduled. EXP, we are doing brand new programming, depending on what it is. And that's been a new thing. And let me take a look here, see what else tonight's schedule is. Give me a second. I should have had this up. My bad.
Oh, you're fine.
So tell us what you got going on, bud.
Well, very excited. We're in the midst of Action Fest right now. So Monday after the show over at the EXP that I do with Rex and John and the other fine folks at Dynamic Forces and Dynamite Entertainment, we're going to be talking about RoboCop. RoboCop, 8 p.m. Central Time on PCP Movie Night to continue Action Fest. We got a great panel lined up. It's a great movie. I think the chat's going to be fire. I think that's going to be a super, super fun show. And we'll perfectly wash the taste of A Good Day to Die Hard out of our mouths, which was the one that we all universally hated.
I think RoboCop had a lot of prophetic scenes in it. So personally, I kind of find it interesting. I think it's awesome. All right, so let's see here. So we got original art at 7 p.m. Then we've got, let's see, comic books at Small Town at 9. And then we got programming on Saturday as well. So tune in, check it out. Robbie and I will be back on Monday for Comic Collectables, normal time, 6 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, we got our 1 hour show on Wednesday. Check that out as well. Some great deals on there. But RoboCop, I love that movie. That was a great movie.
It is a great movie. And like, it was a movie that I loved so much as a kid. And every time I watch it, I get surprised at how violent, how needlessly violent it is at some points. You know what I'm saying? It's just blowing arms off, and it's so cool. I'm also a big Peter Weller fan, so.
Yes, so am I. I got to admit, that was an awesome movie. So I definitely gotta watch that one again.
Yeah, the original. Absolutely.
Yeah, the sequels got kind of cheesy. RoboCop 1 and 2, I thought were the last two good ones.
Yeah, yeah, 3 definitely was not very good.
Yeah,
yeah, pretty much. All right, Rex, thank you so much. You out there in the chat, thank you so much. Those watching on the replay, thank you so much. We are dipping out. Station pop, pop, boom.